There's been an ongoing debate in my home since I got back from the hospital when I'm going to come back to school. And every morning I sort of say, okay, this morning I'm going, and my children sort of lock the door from the outside and do not allow me to come. But today's not about me. Today is about Rav Copperman. And I want to talk about Akaras Tov at the beginning. And I want to talk about when the yeshiva that I was learning in, Chafetz Chaim, it was Hanukkah of Tafshin Lamed Zayin, December 1976. The yeshiva had been in a building, little squash, tiny building for a number of years as the Rosh Yeshiva Zichron Levracha. My Rebbe, Rav Moshe Chait, worked and literally Mesiras Nefesh to construct the building that now is standing in Sanhedrin Murchevet. And we carried the Sifrei Torah from the yeshiva, which was on Sanhedrin Sheish, up by the Tzomet of Sanhedrin Bar Ilan. And we carried the Sifrei Torah down to the new yeshiva. And that night the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Chait Zichron Levracha, gave the first shmuz. And he brought the following Gemara, which says, Gedolim Ma'aseh Chiyah. Great are the actions of Chiyah. Because what Reb Chiyah did was he taught the Torah to a group of Yisayimim. The Gemara says he didn't just teach the Torah to a group of Yisayimim. First he went out and he trapped deer. And then he shechted the deer and he gave away the meat from the deer to Aniyim. And then he took the skins and he made them into parchment, and on that he wrote Chamisha Chumshei Torah, and he took 11 Yisayimim, and 5 of them, each one he taught the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, and the other 6 he taught the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, and then he had them teach each other the different parts of the Torah. And he says, Gedolim Ma'aseh Chiyah, says the Gemara, because he made sure Shlo Tishtakach Torah MiYisrael. The Torah should not be forgotten from Klal Yisrael. Asked my Rebbe, why did he have to go through all that effort? Why couldn't he just go buy parchment? And he says the answer is because if you're going to build something which is meant to keep Torah going in Klal Yisrael, every single last part of what you do needs to be done in a way of Kedusha V'Tara. It needs to be done in a way that's emes. And therefore, when you do something like that, where every single part of it is done in such a way, then you know that Shlo Tishtakach Torah MiYisrael. The Torah won't be forgotten from Klal Yisrael. I think if we sit here in this Beit Knesset, we walk through the campus of Michlala, we sit in the classrooms, we even eat in the Chadar Ochel, and of course we eat L'Shem Shemayim in order to be able to continue to learn Torah. And as much as you, and it's hard, and a little bit I understand you. You're of a generation, you're of a year, that maybe you saw Rav Copperman walking around, maybe he gave 1 or 2 classes, I don't even know. Even already last year, his koach, his strength, his energy, that was always so suffused, so great, was already lacking. And therefore, a little bit, the question is, and it's a legitimate question to ask yourselves, okay, but what does it have to do with me? The answer is Akaras Tov. A person who for over Kimat 50 years was Moser Nefesh to build such a place and to build a makom of Torah. And we'll try to a little bit describe what it is. But he did it in a way where every single last part of this entire campus was suffused with Gedolim Ma'aseh Chiyah, with this desire to build it in a way of Kedusha V'Tara. I know from my years in Michlala, there were times where the Misrad HaChinuch, Michlala is a university, is a college that sometimes needs to deal with the government that has certain demands. And there were times where Rav Copperman was like Volozhin. And he said, if you want me to do that, which is not according to my understanding of the way Torah needs to be given over, then here are the keys. Because I'm only going to teach Torah according to the way of the Messiah that it's meant to be taught, and not in any other way. And the fact that we're here and we have this opportunity is because of his Mesiras Nefesh in every single possible way. And therefore, it's only a Karas HaTov for us to understand, for us to learn, for us to appreciate that which he did, that we have the opportunity to be sitting here and learning Torah in that way. I was, one day this week when I was home, a friend, an old friend, came to visit me, and it's actually, his daughter is one of the Talmidot, and I was talking about what I want to say, and he reminded me of a shmuz that we heard in this week's parsha, in last week's parsha, when Moshe Rabbeinu, at the end of the debate, so to speak, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Moshe Rabbeinu has to go back and take Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. Says the pasuk, Moshe Rabbeinu goes back to Yisro, Chosno, in order to ask permission to be able to go back to Mitzrayim. Klal Yisrael, Shishim Ribo people, even more if you count the people who died in the Choshech, being tortured, enslaved. Go do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said what to do. Understood Moshe Rabbeinu that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said includes all of the mitzvahs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And a Karas HaTov is one of the basic midos that a person has. And even though HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him to go back to Mitzrayim and save Klal Yisrael, of course HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant that along with a Karas HaTov. There's no question whatsoever. HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't even need to say it. It was so clear. And therefore, the depth of a Karas HaTov, the power of a Karas HaTov, is so much that we need, obviously, to understand that and consider that in order to be able to accomplish any of the learning of Torah which we want to accomplish for the rest of this year. Because that's what it's suffused with. Rav Copperman was Rav Yehuda Copperman. And he was a Yehuda in every possible sense of the word. Says the pasuk in Parashas Vayigash, Ves Yehuda shalach al Yosef lefonav Goshna lahoros. Yaakov Avinu sends Yehuda in front of him to Yosef in order lahoros, in order to teach. And over there Rashi says one explanation, and then he says umedrash agoda. And for any of those who are learned Chumash with Rav Copperman, obviously, of course, this would be a reason and an explanation and a shear to explain what Rashi needed the Medrash Haggadah for. But what's the Medrash Haggadah? Which usually in this Rashi everyone remembers the Medrash Haggadah. Very few people remember the Pshat. But the Medrash Haggadah is to prepare a base Medrash. Right? Yehuda is sent to Goshen to prepare a base Medrash. What was special about Goshen to prepare a base Medrash? So I started thinking about this. And I looked around a little bit, and I found in the... Do I have it here? No. Don't have it with me. Whatever. In the Daskei, in one of the Svarim called the Sifsei Kohen, not the Shach on Choshen Mishpat, one of the Talmidim, the Rizal HaKadosh, says that Goshen, and he's quoting from Chazal, that Goshen was the matana that Paro gave Sarah after he understood and realized that she was Avraham Avinu's wife, and therefore he needed to appease her. So what he gave her was Goshen. That's what Paro gave to Sarah. Yehuda is sent to build this base medrash where? In the place of Goshen. Let's go back to that incident of Sarah and Paro. There's a medrash that says the power of the women of Klal Yisrael during the entire time in Mitzrayim of the Kedusha of the Torah, that the only person anything not good could be said about was Shlomo's Bas Divri, is because of the power of Sarah, that she rejected Paro. Now, to most of us, I would assume, we think about it, what is the tremendous, of course, who would want to do such a thing? We don't understand. The reason why we think it's so simple is because of what Sarah Imenu did. Reminds me of a story, can't not quote, Sfas Emes, where some of the Chassidim came to Sfas Emes. They had a question. And the answer Sfas Emes told them was the following. The question's not so important. But the answer that he told them was, he says, imagine there's a giant mountain that people have this desire to climb to the top to. They come with all their equipment, and they climb, and they climb, and they climb, and after days of effort and exertion, they reach the top of the mountain, and they find a small child at the top of the mountain, playing. And they say to him, how did you get here? It took us so much effort. And his response was, my parents climbed the mountain, and I was born here. The reason why we don't understand what was the tremendous nisayon of Sarah is we were born here. So therefore, and the koach of Klal Yisrael, the kedusha of Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim came from that effort of Sarah. The place that represents that effort is Goshen. There's a place where it brings down, it says that Goshen is Roshi Tevos Nun Sha'arei Gvura. 50 levels, 50 gateways of Gvura. Sarah Imenu had these 50 gateways of Gvura. She receives Goshen, which then passes that on to her children. Yaakov sends Yehuda to Goshen to go to that place which carries with it the Kedusha of Sarah Imenu in order to build a Beis Medrash. To build a Beis Medrash in the place in Mitzrayim where Yaakov knew he had to go down to Mitzrayim, but still in the place where there was the greatest amount of Kedusha that there should possibly be. Yehuda, Ves Yehuda, our Moreno Rav Yehuda Copperman, Sholach Lefonov Goshna. He went to Goshen, Lahoros, in order to create a place of the Beis Medrash in the place of Sarah Imenu, in the place of the Kedusha of Sarah Imenu. There's a pasuk in Sefer Yoshua where it counts Goshen as part of the Nachla of Yehuda. And the Mefarshim all deal with, isn't Goshen in Mitzrayim? Is it part of Eretz Yisrael? Is it not in Mitzrayim? There are many, all kinds of innovative answers. But over here, Goshen was the place at the edge of Mitzrayim that bordered on Yehuda, that was the closest place when you're in Mitzrayim you can be attached to Yehuda. To go to Goshen to create a Beis Medrash in order that we should be as close as possible to Eretz Yisrael and not lose our Kedusha. But think about this. I always, when I have nothing to say to Sheva Brachos, I say the following. Okay? So, imagine, a chuppah is a home. But when you get to the chuppah, all there is a roof. There are no walls. Who creates the walls? The Kala, at least in Bnei Ashkenaz. The Kala walks around 7 times. She's creating the walls of the home. Who creates the walls of a home? The walls separate. Outside, which was whatever might be there, and then inside, where we're standing there and we're doing Kedushin, Miloshon Kedusha. The Kala creates that. Sarah Imenu gets Goshen, makes it into a place of Kedusha. What does Yaakov Avinu do? He sends Yehuda to go in that place of Sarah to create a Beis Medrash. Yehuda takes the Goshen. Yehuda, our Rav Yehuda Copperman, took Bnos Yisrael, but to create a Beis Medrash. Learning for its own sake, but ultimately learning to create a house of Torah. to create that place of Beis Medrash. That was his goal, that was his desire, that was what he wanted to see. The pursuit of Torah, but the pursuit of Torah to ultimately to create homes of Torah. And his greatest nachas, his greatest simcha, came when he heard about a new home of Torah created from within his students based on what they accomplished over here. Yehuda goes to Goshen, the place of Sarah, to create a Beis Medrash. That every home should be a Beis Medrash. That every home should be a place of Torah, which is what he wanted. That's Yehuda, what he accomplished, and was passed on to Rav Yehuda Copperman. Rav Copperman was a fascinating person. There's no other way to describe it. I had the schus, the opportunity, to know him for over 20 years. Not just to know him. Years ago, there was a Machal used to have, not Machal, Michlala used to close down for Pesach, and there would be a Pesach hotel in Michlala. Baruch's parents would cook the food, okay, the Coppermans would be here as the Saba and Savta, and everyone would make their own Seder in the Dira, in the Chadar Ochel, and then we all go upstairs and join together for the Shulchan Orech, and then the end of the Seder. And the whole week was a week with the Coppermans. We were here twice. My children still remember it. This must be 17, 18 years ago. The songs, the enjoyment, the simcha of what Chag is, it was much more than just he was my boss. He was a person who lived all the people whom he knew. He's a person, as I said, he learned originally in Gateshead by Rav Dessler. You know, imagine that. By Rav Dessler. To hear from Rav Dessler himself. And then in 1950, when there weren't, you know, all the things we have now, he got on probably a boat and came to learn in the Chevron Yeshiva here in Eretz Yisrael. And he learned from the Rosh Yeshiva of Chevron. But he was always himself. He took what he learned and he made it his. Chazal say, Kol Omer Dover B'Shem Omro Mevi Geula La'olam. But the understanding is, it's not just that you're a parrot. It's that you take what you learned from your Rebbeim and you know how to say it over with your own tune, with your own flavor. Anyone who knew Rav Copperman, in this part I can do nothing about because I'm completely disconnected from it. His love, his understanding of Torah as music, which is something that I have no connection to whatsoever. Where do we see this also in Yehuda? So there's a bit of a contradiction in the Psukim about where the Agolos came from. Where did the different wagons that brought Klal Yisrael, the Shivim Nefesh, from Eretz Canaan to Eretz Mitzrayim, where do they come from? Were they from Yosef because they're the Egla Rufa? Were they from Paro, which it seems what the Pasuk says? So there's a Das Kanim in Bilalei Tosfos that says that Yehuda took the Agolos which Paro sent, which Paro had decorated, not just decorated, Paro had imbued with Avodah Zarah, and Yehuda burnt the Avodah Zarah off. So Yaakov Avinu could use them to travel to Mitzrayim with the Shechina. Now think about this. There's a Lashon in Chazal, it's by the discussion between Aspasianus and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, when they're debating whether or not to destroy the Beis HaMikdash. And it uses a mashal of Shvor Chovis u'Shmor Yena, to break the barrel and keep and protect the wine. It's very easy to destroy something. It's very easy to take something and break it. It's much more difficult to be able to look at something, know which parts are Avodah Zarah, which parts we need, we can use, we want, and destroy the Avodah Zarah and keep that which we want. Yehuda had that ability. Rav Copperman took, on the one hand, his world of Gateshead, his world of Hebron, his world of what he learned from his Rebbeim, and at the same time, he realized everything else that was out there. He knew how to burn away the Avodah Zarah and keep what remained and be able to utilize that in the proper way. And he tried with every fiber of his being to transfer that idea on. That was the koach of Yehuda, and I think that was the koach of Rav Copperman. When I first met him, the first time I met him, so you just had Rav Hartman come and speak for a number of shiurim. Hartman and I were friends. We were teaching together in Yeshiva High School, Marava. He taught Chumash classes, I taught the Navi classes. And Rav Hartman brought me to meet Rav Copperman. I was a baby, a child, 20-something, 25 years ago. And Rav Copperman had this ability, as I said before, Ha'omer Dover B'Shem Omro, to take a chazal and make it his. And he started, we talked, we spoke for a while, a little bit, we spoke in learning, and he says to me, okay, so what do you want to teach? Because I believe Ein Adam Melamed Elo Ma Shelibo Chafetz. The actual chazal is Ein Adam Lomed Elo Ma Shelibo Chafetz. You can only learn that which your heart desires. Maybe that's why we have so many choices here in Mechela. But Rav Copperman took the chazal and changed it. He said, if you want to teach, it has to be Ma Shelibo Chafetz. It's not a curriculum. It's not about, I have a hole here, I need someone who's going to teach X. I need someone who believes their leiv, not just their moach, but their leiv is involved, exists in what they're teaching. And you have to be melamed ma shelibo chafetz. Because if you're melamed ma shelibo chafetz, then your students will also be connected to it. If you're just melamed what you need to teach in order to fill the curriculum, they're not going to get what I want them to get. Ein on the melamed elo ma shelibo chafetz. So the end of the story is, I said to him, well, I'd really like to teach Sefer Shmuel because I've taught Sefer Shmuel the past 2 years. And his response was, I already have 2 people or 3 people teaching Sefer Shmuel. Tell me something else. Okay. But, so I said, okay, Yoshua and Shoftim, which I also had taught. But Ein Od Melamed Elo Ma Shelibo Chafetz. This koach of Rav Copperman, which, as I said before, Omer Dover B'Shem Omro, to say something over, not just as a parrot, but to take it and see within it your side of it, what you're connected to it, and bring it out, was something Rav Copperman could do with Chazal across the board. And when you spoke to him, he had something that we don't have very much anymore. The ability to speak in words of Chazal, but they were his words. In other words, this ability to understand that Chazal are talking to him, and use those words and make them his, and then give them over to us. And those who are students of his, who are actually in his class, can talk more about that than I can. But this ability to do such a thing. This is real chinuch. Chinuch is not about just repeating words, giving over, but it's giving over your own leiv. The last time I spoke to Rav Copperman was about a month ago. And I wasn't feeling so well at the time. I was in between where I was. And Rav Copperman called me up to wish me a refuah shlema. That was the last time I spoke to him. The first time I spoke to him, he taught me Ein Od Melamed Elo Ma Shelibo Chafetz. He taught me if you want to teach, it has to be something that comes from your heart. It has to be something you're passionate about. The last thing he taught me was there's no boundaries to what a heart is. There's no boundaries. You can be 86 years old. I'm young enough, literally, to be one of his children. He's not well. He had every possible reason to be busy with his own things. But no. Your leiv cares about everybody. And he went out of his way. I tend to doubt Rav Copperman had a smartphone that had my phone number in it, that he just needed to push a button, and got my phone number to call me. In fact, Dr. Rosenwasser just told me, I just came from being Menachem Ovel. She said she kept on lying to Rav Copperman, that how much better I was feeling, which Baruch Hashem I am feeling better. But she kept on lying to him that I was feeling even much better, because he was bothered by it. And he had to take care of himself, not other people. But he was worried about other people. The Lev. You know where that comes from? That also comes from Yehuda. Yehuda is Malchus. And the Rambam writes that the Melech is Lev Ha'am. The Melech is the Lev. As Moshe Rabbeinu says, in Parshas Pinchas, Ish asher ruach bo, sheyodea lahalech lefi rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. To know how to treat each person with what exactly they need. And a Melech, writes the Rambam in Hilchot Sefer HaMitzvos, is that same, the whole idea of a Melech, in fact, in the Rambam itself, Yoshua is called a Melech. The ability to not just deal with a mass, but to be Mahalech lefi rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. We know this about David, we know this about Moshe Rabbeinu, but that's the idea of the Malchus of Yehuda to be able to do such a thing. In fact, I think one of the last parts of one of the last Pesukim in Malachim that I taught, at least at this point till I come back, was that miyochol lishbos des amcha kaved hazeh. And Chazal say the ability to understand each person individually and know what they want. That's the concept of Yehuda. It's the ability to be ma'ached the am, to take all the different parts, know that each part has its own specific place, and make them into one. That's the context, that's the Geder of Malchus. Someone who himself has that ability, someone who contains within himself, as we said before, so many different things. Someone who has Gateshead, has Slobodka, has his PhD, has all the things he's learned and written and taught, whether it's the Sforno, whether it's the Meshech Chochma, whether it's Reinu Bechaya, whether it's the Sifrei Machshava, whether it's the Gemara, whether it's all these things, and is a person so multifaceted in so many different ways, is able to be Mahalech lefi rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. And therefore, he can create an institution which is Mahalech lefi rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. He can create an institution where so many various, vast, different people can be in, because he himself has a little bit of each one of them, and is able, therefore, to create such an institution. That's the koach of Yehuda of the Melech, the koach of Malchus. One of the ways, I think, by which a person has this ability to be mahalech rucho shel kol echad ve'echad, and to be able to understand people and be with people. Again, for those whose mothers maybe went to Michala, and they told legendary stories of Rav Copperman's other half, the Rabbanit. And till she was nifter, I think it's about 2 years ago, the last few years of her life, she wasn't so well. She didn't really interact with people around her that much. And I would go up to lunch, and she was living here at the time in Michala with someone to help her. And Rav Copperman would eat lunch, and after Rav Copperman would eat lunch, he and the Rabbanit would walk, even though she really, I'm not sure how much she knew whom she was with. And she would take her arm and walk up and down the pathways of Michala, which are the part that the Rabbanit built into Michala, and he would walk with her. And I would cry. Because, like I said, more than just someone who was here, someone whom we knew, we spent Pesach with, the children got to know, they got yelled at her, don't step on the flowers, be careful. They never forgot that. But still, and to see the Ava, to see the connection, to see what's there, even when you think there's nothing there. And what am I doing? And to watch that would simply bring tears to my eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of what it means to be connected to somebody else. What it really means. And that was the koach of such connection. So I'd like to end with a little bit. Maybe I managed, like I said, the vastness of Rav Rudman. The smile when he heard a chiddush in Torah. The smile when you took out his Meshech Chochmah and showed him something. Even if it was something that he could have added, or showed him something that the ava of every little bit of Torah, whatever it is, was something so great, something that so suffused him, and something that so suffused what he wanted the Michallah to be, that ava of Torah. I'd like to end with, therefore, what we have to be Makir Tov. What we should think about in terms of Hakaras HaTov. There's a Yalkut Shimoni that says, and it's a little bit strong, it says a person who doesn't know how to be Makir Tov to people doesn't also know how to be Makir Tov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's one midah of Hakaras HaTov. That's what Hakaras HaTov is. And we're in the parsha of Hakaras HaTov. Moshe Rabbeinu was not allowed to punish you would make the makos of whether it was the mayim, whether it was the ofar, because he had a Hakaras HaTov to something which was doming, to something which was inanimate. That's that Hakaras HaTov that Moshe Rabbeinu was meant to have. There's a chazal that I've taught in different classes. It talks about the difference between Rachel and Leah. And it says, Rachel is pelech shtika. Rachel is the aspect of shtika. And Leah is pelech hodoya. The midah of Leah is the aspect of being modeh, of recognizing that what I have comes from somewhere else. And therefore, I need to be Makir Tov, and I need to be Makir Tov, and ultimately, the Hakaras HaTov brings me back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Medrash says, Leah pelech hodoya. V'yotzu mimenu ba'alei hodoya. And it begins with Yehuda. Yehuda was the Baal Hodoya. David, obviously, is the greatest Baal Hodoya. Daniel is a Baal Hodoya. The idea of a person being a Baal Hodoya is one of the two emos who created Klal Yisrael. Kurochel u'cholei asher banu shneim es beis Hashem. One of those two aspects is to be a Baal Hodoya. That's Yehuda. To be a person who's a Baal Hodoya. Let's recognize, as I said, different people will come in and speak. Different people will have their own aspects of him. But let's be Makir Tov. Let's have this Hodoya to understand of where we are and what we've accomplished is built on the foundations of Kedusha, on the foundations of going back to his Rebbeim, whether to Gateshead, to Rav Dessler, to Chevron, to Rav Chatzkel Sarna, to the ability to have this unique ability of Yehuda to create houses of Kedusha, to know how to differentiate and burn off the Avodah Zarah and utilize that which is not there, and be a person who's holech lefi rucho shel kol echad ve'echad. And I'd like to end with an amusing story, just to end, because Rav Rudman always had a smile. I have a cousin who went to Michlala in 1972, and she came to, not this building, it was an old building up in Michlala. I don't know who did the interviews then, and she and her friend walk in together, and there's a man standing there. I'll tell you a little secret, maybe some of you may have seen pictures. At the time, Rav Rudman didn't have a beard, and with his leprechaun smile, he was Irish, Gaelic, and they walk in, and there's this, he's standing there, and he says, Shalom Aleichem, who are you? And my cousin says, I'm Waxman from Far Rockaway. And our friend says, I'm Gross from Far Rockaway. And he looks at them and he says, I'm Copperman from Yerushalayim. With all his godless, Copperman from Yerushalayim. Let's hold on to, even if we didn't get a chance to really imbibe, but it's in the walls. It's in everything that's here. And let's get from that and continue it on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rav Rudman. Really gave us a lot of what to think